It started a few months ago, around her birthday. Claire came home from work and was smelling like Axe body spray. At first, I brushed it off. Not my wife, she loves me. We have been faithful to each other for years. But then the doubt started to creep in. I've had to start working late shifts, weekends too. Since we have been behind on our mortgage, my time at home has literally been less than 5 or 6 hours a day, and most of that time was spent asleep. But she rarely complained. In fact, most of the time she seemed happier when I left. Then one day I tried to kiss her on her neck, and I saw a blemish there, as though someone else's lips had touched her skin. My first mistake was confronting her head-on about it. Of course she denied. She yelled. She called me the bad guy. Typical cheater behavior. Worst of all, she got what she wanted. Insisted I start sleeping downstairs and saying that we needed a separation, maybe even a divorce. All I got out of it was desperation and depression. She insisted that she was still faithful to me, but all the signs were there. I just didn't have the proof to back it up. What you need is a security system for your home, my buddy Chad said one night when I went to drink away my troubles. Wouldn't she realize what I was getting it for? I pointed out. So don't tell her. Wait until she's out of the house and make it discreet. You know, cameras in the smoke alarms. Shit like that, he said as he drowned his whiskey. His half-brained scheme didn't sound that bad. And I knew that Claire had said she was going to spend the next few days at her mother's house to supposedly let things cool down between us. If I was going to get to the bottom of this, it was now or never. So that's what I did. As soon as I knew that she was gone, I contacted a local shop and had them come that afternoon. The technician didn't ask any questions, just put them exactly where I said that I wanted them and even threw one of those doll cameras as an extra bonus. I gave it to Claire as a peace offering, saying that I was sorry for the accusations. Sounds stupid, I know. What are the chances she would even leave the doll around to let me listen on her? But then I know my wife. She is sweet and kind and loving, sure, but she is also very predictable. She put the stuffed doll exactly where I thought she would. I let a few days pass by, kept things amicable between us as I went to and from work. Then, the next time I was off, when she again insisted that she didn't want to spend any time with me alone, I went to check the cameras. Finally, I could get the answers that I was looking for. The grainy tape started up around 13 minutes past 7 the previous night. That was about half an hour about I left for work. And I saw my wife sitting there on the bed, wearing nothing but a sheer robe, staring up at the ceiling. At first I puzzled over what she might be doing. She was perfectly still. Her back turned against the camera as she took off the robe, and I saw what looked like little marks on the edge of her shoulders. Then I saw a man enter the picture and I knew I was right. She placed him on the bed, ready to mount him, and I almost wanted to turn and look away, disgusted with what she was about to do. Then, to my amazement, I watched as those little bumps began to gently push her skin outward. At first, it wasn't noticeable. Just a slow curling of her back. Then, suddenly the movement quickened and long pieces of bone broke out on either side. They made a crackling noise, and as I heard my wife scream out, I don't know if it was a sound of pleasure or pain. The bones pushed to the side and started to form sinew and stretch the skin to its limit. And I realized they were forming what appeared to be wings. Her lean from bent over towards the man that she had been seducing for the night and I watched in abject terror as her mouth widened to reveal rows of sharp teeth, more than even a shark might have. Her lover's screams were now the ones that filled the void of the room. Blood splattered on our clean sheets, muscle and skin ripped apart like wrapping paper. Her fingers gnawing into his open chest cavity like claws as she ripped out his beating heart and then began to chew on it like a piece of jerky. Her wings spread wide, and she lifted her meal from the bed, moving him onto the floor right in front of the camera to finish him off. I don't know how long she continued to eat. I couldn't bear to watch any longer. Then I looked towards the room in confusion, trying to understand how it was possible for the video to correlate with my pristine room. I never knew her to be a good cleaner, and surely there had to be some trace evidence of the bodies she had likely disposed of time and time again. Then I heard a noise behind me, and I turned to see her standing there. She saw that I was looking at the footage, and I'm certain that if I could see my face, it was likely paler than a ghost. Without a word, Claire crossed the room and looked down at the doll, playing with the strings like a cat might a ball of yarn. Then she crushed it slowly in her hand. It took less than a few seconds for her to reduce it to rubble. Moving to the bed, she crossed her legs and smiled at me, the same way she had when we first started dating. "So, what happens now?" she asked. I found myself at a loss for words. Then, finally, I went over towards her and smiled nervously, remembering the other cameras in the house, remembering she didn't know what all I had seen or if I had saved anything. I get everything in the divorce, or I will leak what I have all over the internet to every priest, demon hunter, and damn X-File junkie there is. Are we clear? I said with the best poker face I could muster. I knew she could kill me in a heartbeat. But I also knew if that was her goal, she would have done that years ago. She needed me for what I don't know. But all she did was nod and kiss me slowly. "It was fun while it lasted, wasn't it?" she asked as she got up from the bed. I never saw her again after that night, and I hope I never do. Oh, and one more thing. I don't think I'm ever going to uninstall these cameras. The Bradens seemed like good people. Tim, age 34, was an auto mechanic for a body shop downtown, and Natalie, age 29, was a CNA at the local clinic. They lived in a nice 2-story house just across the river, with a few acres of land separating them and the nearest neighbors. When I got to the house, they met me near the garage and went over a few simple instructions for my stay. Emergency numbers are on the fridge. There's some microwavable dishes in the pantry. Here's the code for the front door in case you get locked out. Everything seemed normal at first. Then I asked them where their twins Joy and Julia were, and they both got stone cold quiet. Finally, Nat found her voice again. "Upstairs in their room. You need not disturb them." Something about the way she said it seemed off. "Are they really asleep?" I asked. I knew the girls couldn't be older than 6 or 7, and it wasn't even past 5 when I got there. Why were they in their rooms now? "Leave them alone," Tim ordered. His voice sounded authoritative and commanding. It bothered me more than his wife's nervousness. I just wanted to know what my duties were. If the children have already been cared for, I commented. "Watch the house. Netflix is set up in the den. Keep a watch on the back stairs and don't under any circumstances let them out of their room. Is that understood?" Tim responded. This time I could tell there was a hint of concern in his voice. I had never met them before, so of course my stranger danger radar was a bit more on point than usual. What were they doing to their children? We'll return at 9:30. Keep yourself occupied until then, Natalie said. They refused to answer any other question and I was left in an empty house. My curiosity piqued. I decided to start checking out the house myself to see what I could find. The den was first, and I found a few photo albums on display over the fireplace, making me smile about how old-fashioned this couple was. Opening them up, however, changed that perspective. The images of their girls were ripped apart or cut up, as though the Bradens were ashamed of their offspring. Instantly, I decided to go upstairs and make sure the girls were all right. But as soon as I saw their door, I was stunned beyond words. There were at least 3 padlocks on it, along with a metallic bar that kept an airtight seal on their room. Seeing it made me feel immediately uncomfortable, and I thought calling the cops. What if they were molesting their children? As I turned to go back downstairs, I heard a soft groan from the other side of the door. Please, we are so hungry, 2 soft little voices said. They were gently knocking on their wall, trying to get anyone's attention. That sealed the deal for me. I rushed to find the keys. Anything that could possibly help those poor children escape. Then I paused at the kitchen and looked at the numbers on the fridge. None of them seemed familiar to me as far as emergency services. So who had the parents put down as contacts? I pulled out my phone, took a snapshot of the numbers, trying to decide whether calling the cops was really the smart thing to do. Above me, I heard the girls pounding on the door. I didn't hesitate and immediately called 911. I told them the situation and they promised to send 2 patrol officers over as soon as they could. Then I went back upstairs to try and calm Joy and Julia down. It's going to be okay. 2 officers are coming and they are going to get you out of there, I said soothingly. The girls were crying. They sounded so scared. I paced the living room, waiting for the cops to show up. When they did, they brought a few tools to break down the door. I stood to the side as they explained to the twins what they were going to do, and then I watched as the door splintered apart. Finally, the last bits of wood broke and the door fell down to reveal a dark room beyond it. Had these girls ever seen the light of the day? The officers used their headgear to illuminate the room, which looked like your typically nursery, and slowly stepped inside to find the girls. I stayed back for a moment, not wanting to interfere with them doing their job. Suddenly, I heard one of the officers scream. It sounded like he had stepped on the Lego or something. But then the scream got louder and it was followed by gunshots. Something large hit the ground and I heard his nails scrape against the carpet as he was dragged under the bed. The second officer was no different. In less than a few minutes, something inside the room grabbed him and broke every bone in his body. I watched as he collapsed to the floor like a rag doll. Then, from amidst the dim light their headgear provided, I saw 2 tiny frames step over the broken fresh gills. Joy and Julia. They had smiles on their faces along with blood dripping from their mouths. Their teeth reminded me of sharks. Then they stepped towards me, eyes gleaming like they saw me as their next meal. I panicked. I ran to the parents' room and slammed their door closed. Soon I heard those same gentle knocks on my door. Please, come play with us, the girls said in unison. I closed my eyes shut, trying to calm down and wake myself from what I was sure had to be living nightmare. Then I remembered the numbers on the fridge. I pulled my phone out and memorized them quickly, dialing as fast as my fingers would allow. Joy and Julia were already gnawing at the door. Hello? It was Natalie. The children, they got out. I shouted into the phone. Why won't you play with us? The girl snarled. The phone line went dead. I was sure their parents' door wouldn't hold up much longer. I think I might have said a prayer. Hell, I think I might have said a dozen. Suddenly, I heard a struggle outside. The children cried in anguish as their parents subdued them. Then it was silent again. You can come out, Natalie said. I opened the door with shaky palms. The parents were standing in the hall, covered in scrapes and scars, and glaring at me with disappointment. From behind them, I heard their girls angrily slamming their bodies against the closet that Natalie was closely guarding. We'll have to pay you for half the night, Tim said as he pulled out his wallet. Wordlessly, I accepted the offer. Will you be free Tuesday? His wife asked. I listened to the scratching against the door and shook my head. No, I don't think I will be.